Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Before you even get out of bed, your phone buzzes. Payment received. A minute later, another notification. Payment received. Then another. You haven't answered an email. You haven't clocked in for work. You haven't sold anything yourself. Yet somehow, money kept coming in while you were asleep. Now, before you think this is another one of those fake get-rich-while-you-sleep promises, it's not. Because the people making this kind of money usually aren't influencers. They're not posting pictures from private jets. They're not showing off luxury watches. In fact, you probably walk past their businesses every single week without giving them a second thought. The strange part? Most people would never want to own these businesses. They're too boring, too ordinary, too unglamorous. But that's exactly why they work. Think about it. When was the last time you saw someone bragging online about owning a laundromat, or a storage facility, or a parking lot? Probably never. Yet some of these boring businesses quietly generate thousands of dollars every month because they solve problems that never go away. People will always have dirty clothes. They'll always run out of storage space. Their cars will always get dirty. They'll always need somewhere to park. Needs don't follow trends. Needs create businesses. And businesses built on everyday needs often outlast businesses built on hype. Here's something most people never realize. The average person spends their life asking, how can I make more money? Wealthy business owners ask a completely different question. How can I own something people keep paying for, whether I'm working or not? That one question changes everything. Today, we're counting down 10 boring businesses that can keep making money long after the owner goes home for the day. Some require more money to start than others. Some require management and maintenance. None of them are magic money machines. But every single one is based on something far more reliable than social media trends. Human behavior. And by the time we reach number one, you may never look at an ordinary business the same way again. Let's start with a business that almost everyone has used, but very few people ever think about owning. Business number 10, laundromats. Let's say you're 25 years old. You work 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, maybe 6. You work hard. You get paid. Then, almost immediately, that paycheck starts disappearing. Rent, groceries, fuel, bills. The next month, you do it all over again. Now imagine someone else in your city. They wake up at the same time you do. But instead of rushing to clock in, they stop by a small laundromat they own. They empty the payment machines. Check that everything is running properly. Call a technician if a machine needs servicing. Then they leave. The laundromat keeps working, even after they do. Think about it. Dirty clothes are one problem that never disappears. Every week, millions of people need clean clothes. Students, families, construction workers, hospital staff, travelers. Some don't own a washing machine. Others simply don't have the time. So they pay for convenience. One customer walks in, then another, then another. Each person spends just a few dollars. It doesn't sound like much, but here's the secret. A successful business isn't built on one customer spending a fortune. It's built on thousands of customers spending a little, week after week, month after month. That's why laundromats have survived for decades. They don't rely on trends. They don't care which app is popular this year. As long as people keep wearing clothes, someone will always need to wash them. And that's exactly what makes this business so powerful. It solves a problem that never takes a day off. But if you think that's predictable, wait until you see the next business, because it gets paid to protect things people don't even use anymore. Business number 9, storage units. Have you ever opened a drawer, looking for one thing, and found 5 things you completely forgot you owned? An old phone, a broken chair, boxes from your last move, clothes you've been meaning to donate for 3 years. Here's the funny thing about humans. We love buying things. We hate throwing them away. Eventually, our homes run out of space. That's where one of the quietest businesses in the world steps in. Storage units. At first glance, they don't look impressive. Just rows of metal doors. No fancy decorations. No expensive displays. Nothing that screams, this business makes money. But don't let appearances fool you. Imagine you own a storage facility with 150 units. A family moving into a smaller house rents one. A college student stores furniture for the summer. A small business needs extra space for inventory. A couple renovating their home needs somewhere to keep their belongings. One by one, the units begin to fill up. Now here's the part most people never think about. Many customers don't stay for just 1 month. They stay for 6 months, a year, sometimes even longer. Every month, another payment comes in, not because you sold them something new, but because you're solving the same problem they still have. Lack of space. That's the beauty of recurring income. You don't have to convince the same customer to buy again. They've already decided your business makes their life easier. The best businesses don't always sell exciting products. Sometimes, they simply give people more room to breathe. And the next business on our list? You've probably driven through it dozens of times, especially after a rainy week. Without realizing, it could be quietly printing money all day long. Business number 8, car washes. Let me ask you something. If you spent $40,000 on a car, would you leave it covered in mud? Probably not. Most people take pride in what they own. That's why no matter where you live, cars never stay clean for long. A little rain, a dusty road, bird droppings, tree sap. Just a few days later, that shiny car starts looking neglected. So what do people do? They head to the nearest car wash. Now imagine you're the owner. You don't have to convince people that dirt exists. Nature does that for you. One car pulls in. The driver pays. A few minutes later, they drive out with a spotless car. Then another car arrives. And another. By lunchtime, dozens of customers have already come through. By the end of the day, it could be hundreds. Here's what makes this business so interesting. Every customer only spends a small amount. $10, $15, maybe $20. But when you multiply that by hundreds of cars every week, those small payments begin to add up. Of course, owning a car wash isn't as simple as buying a machine and walking away. Equipment needs maintenance. Water and electricity aren't free. Soap has to be restocked. And if something breaks, it needs to be fixed quickly. But once everything is running smoothly, the business follows a simple formula. Dirty cars come in, clean cars leave. The cycle repeats, day after day, year after year. That's what separates a fad from a dependable business. Fads need attention. Dependable businesses solve problems. And speaking of convenience, the next business might be the smartest one on this list. Imagine owning dozens of tiny stores without hiring a single cashier. Business number 7, vending machines. Imagine you own a business that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never asks for overtime. It never calls in sick. And customers can buy from it in less than 30 seconds. Sounds too good to be true? You've probably used one without thinking twice. A vending machine. Now, picture yourself walking through an airport. Your flight is delayed. You're thirsty. You don't want to stand in a long line. Then you spot a vending machine. You tap your card. Press one button. A cold bottle of water drops down. Transaction complete. You leave happy. But while you're walking away, the owner just made another sale. Now imagine that same thing happening at a hospital, a university, an office building, a train station, a gym. One machine becomes 5. 5 becomes 20. 20 becomes 50. Each machine earns a little on its own. But together, they can create a steady stream of income. Here's the lesson. You don't always need one customer to spend a lot of money. Sometimes it's better to have thousands of customers spend a little. That's how many successful businesses grow. One small sale, repeated over and over again. Of course, vending machines aren't completely hands-off. They need to be restocked. Products expire. Machines occasionally break down. And choosing the right location can make the difference between a machine that barely sells and one that empties out every few days. That's why smart owners don't just buy vending machines. They buy good locations. Because in business, location can be worth more than the product itself. And that brings us to the final business in today's countdown. It doesn't sell snacks. It doesn't wash clothes. It doesn't clean cars. In fact, some people would say it doesn't sell anything at all. But every single day, drivers willingly pay to use it. And that's exactly why it's so profitable. Business number 6, parking lots. Let me ask you a simple question. How many times have you driven around looking for parking space? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Maybe even longer. When you're in a hurry, a parking space suddenly becomes incredibly valuable. That's why parking lots are one of the most overlooked businesses in the world. Imagine you own a parking lot in a busy part of the city. It's Monday morning. By 8 a.m., almost every space is occupied. Office workers have arrived. Shoppers are walking into nearby stores. People visiting hospitals. Students attending classes. Every time another car enters, another payment is made. The amazing part? You don't have to convince anyone to park. If they're already heading somewhere, they need a place to leave their car. The demand already exists. You're simply providing the solution. That's a pattern you've probably noticed throughout this countdown. The best businesses don't create problems. They solve problems people already have. Of course, owning a parking lot isn't completely effortless. There are maintenance costs, security, lighting, insurance, payment systems, and, depending on where it's located, local permits and regulations. But once everything is running smoothly, the business becomes remarkably predictable. Cars come in, cars leave, new cars arrive. The cycle repeats, day after day, year after year. And that's exactly what long-term investors love. Predictability. Because predictable businesses often produce predictable income. Now, take a step back and look at the 5 businesses we've covered so far. A laundromat, a storage facility, a car wash, vending machines, a parking lot. None of them are exciting. None of them are likely to make headlines. But every one of them is built around something far more valuable than excitement. Need. And people never stop paying for things they genuinely need. But here's the twist. Everything you've seen so far isn't even the most surprising part of this list. The next businesses are even more overlooked. Yet some of them have quietly made ordinary people incredibly wealthy. One of them is probably closer to you right now than you think. And once you notice it, you'll never look at it the same way again. What if I told you? Some of the businesses we're about to cover require even less day-to-day attention than the ones you've already seen. Yet they can still generate income year after year. They don't depend on millions of followers. They don't need to go viral. And they don't care what's trending this month. Instead, they make money by solving simple problems that people never stop paying to solve. That's the real pattern behind every business on this list. The simpler the problem, the more consistent the demand. So far, we've looked at businesses built around everyday habits. Now let's look at businesses built around convenience. Because convenience is one of the most profitable products you can ever sell. And the next one proves it perfectly. Business number 5, ice vending machines. Think about the last time you bought a bag of ice. Maybe you were hosting a party, going camping, planning a barbecue, or filling a cooler before a long road trip. You probably didn't think twice about paying for it. Because when you need ice, you usually need it immediately. That's why ice vending machines are such an interesting business. Unlike a convenience store, they focus on selling one product, ice, nothing else. Customers pull up, choose the amount they need, pay, collect it, and drive away in just a few minutes. Simple. But here's the clever part. Ice doesn't need a salesperson. It doesn't need shelves full of different products. The machine does almost everything. Of course, it still needs regular maintenance. It needs electricity, water, cleaning, and someone to make sure it's operating properly. But once it's in a good location, it can serve customer after customer throughout the day, sometimes even in the middle of the night. It's another reminder that a business doesn't have to be complicated to be profitable. Sometimes, doing one thing really well is enough. And the next business on our list takes that idea even further, because pet owners are willing to spend money on one thing without thinking twice. Business number 4, self-service pet wash. If you've ever owned a dog, you already know what happens after a walk in the rain. Muddy paws, vet fur, and before you know it, your clean house isn't so clean anymore. Now imagine trying to wash a large dog in your bathroom. Water everywhere, hair in the drain, soap on the floor. It's messy, and for many people, it's simply not worth the hassle. That's exactly why self-service pet wash stations have become so popular. Instead of struggling at home, pet owners drive to a clean, fully equipped washing station. Everything they need is already there. The tub, the shampoo, the dryer, the cleaning tools. They pay a small fee, wash their pet, and leave the mess behind. Now imagine you're the owner. You don't need to wash every dog yourself. You're providing the space, the equipment, and the convenience. The customer does the rest. That's an important lesson in business. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can sell isn't a product. It's convenience. People are often happy to pay if it saves them time, reduces stress, or avoids a bigger mess. Of course, you'll still have expenses. Cleaning supplies, water, equipment maintenance, keeping the facility clean and welcoming. But as pet ownership continues to grow, so does the demand for services that make life easier for pet owners. And that's why smart entrepreneurs pay attention to changing habits. Because where habits grow, businesses often grow with them. Now, the next business on this list is one you've probably used dozens of times. Every transaction only earns a small amount. Most people never even notice the fee, but when those small fees are collected thousands of times, they can become a very steady source of income. Business number 3, ATM business. Picture this. It's Friday evening. You're about to pay for something. Then you realize the store only accepts cash. You check your wallet. Empty. Luckily, there's an ATM just outside. You walk over, insert your card, withdraw the money. You're relieved. The transaction takes less than a minute. You probably don't think about it again. But the owner of that ATM just made money from a service fee. Now imagine that happening. Not once, not 10 times, but hundreds of times every single week. That's the business model. You're not selling money. You're selling convenience. People don't use an ATM because they want to pay a fee. They use it because they need cash right now. And when convenience matters more than the fee, most people don't hesitate. Now imagine you own just one ATM. The income might be modest, but what if you own 10, 20, or 50? Each machine becomes another small stream of income. On its own, it may not seem life-changing, but together, those small streams can grow into a river. Of course, owning ATMs isn't completely hands-off. The machines need to be stocked with cash. They require maintenance. Security is important. And choosing the wrong location can mean very few transactions. That's why experienced owners focus on placement. Busy shopping areas, gas stations, nightlife districts, convenience stores, anywhere people are likely to need quick access to cash. By now, you've probably noticed a pattern. The businesses that make the most consistent money aren't always the most exciting. They're simply in the right place, at the right time, solving the right problem. And the next business proves that in a completely different way. It doesn't sell a product. It doesn't provide a service. Instead, it rents something every business wants. Attention. Business number 2, billboard advertising. Every day, thousands of companies compete for one thing: your attention. Think about your drive to work this morning. How many billboards did you pass? 1? 5? Maybe you didn't even notice them, but someone did. A local restaurant, a real estate company, a law firm, a new smartphone brand. Businesses pay thousands of dollars to put their message in front of people every single day. Now imagine, instead of paying for the advertisement, you own the billboard. Every month, a business rents that space. Their ad goes up. The monthly payment comes in. When the contract ends, another business takes its place. That's the beauty of this business. You're not selling a product. You're leasing visibility. And as long as businesses need customers, they'll always need ways to get noticed. Of course, not every billboard is valuable. A billboard hidden on an empty road won't earn much. But one beside a busy highway or at a major city intersection, that's a completely different story. Location changes everything. In fact, the billboard itself isn't the real asset. The location is. That's another lesson wealthy investors understand. Sometimes, owning the right piece of land is far more valuable than owning the thing sitting on it. And here's what's fascinating. Drivers may ignore the same billboard every day, but advertisers don't. They see thousands of potential customers passing by. That's why they're willing to keep paying for that space. Now we've reached the final business on today's list. Ironically, it's probably the least glamorous of them all. No flashy marketing, no exciting products, no viral videos, just large, ordinary buildings that most people never think about. Yet behind those plain walls, some investors have quietly built life-changing wealth. Business number 1, mini warehouses and industrial rentals. Now we've reached number 1, and it's probably the most overlooked business on this entire list. Imagine you're driving through the edge of your city. You pass a row of plain-looking warehouses. No bright signs, no crowds, no excitement, just large buildings with trucks coming and going. Most people don't even slow down, but an investor sees something completely different. They see businesses paying rent, month after month, year after year. Think about every product you buy: your phone, your groceries, the shoes you're wearing, the chair you're sitting on. Before any of those items reach a store, they had to be stored somewhere. That's where warehouses come in. Small businesses use them to hold inventory. Online sellers use them before shipping orders. Manufacturers use them to store equipment and materials. Logistics companies use them to keep goods moving. As long as products are being bought and sold, someone will always need space to store them. And unlike trendy businesses, a warehouse doesn't need customers walking through the front door every day. Many tenants sign long-term leases. That means predictable rental income, month after month, sometimes for years. Of course, owning industrial property requires significant capital. Buildings need maintenance. Roofs leak. Loading docks need repairs. Property taxes and insurance don't disappear. But here's what makes this business so powerful. You're not chasing customers every single day. You're providing infrastructure that other businesses depend on. And when businesses depend on you, your income becomes far more predictable. Now, take one last look at every business we've covered. A laundromat, storage units, car washes, vending machines, parking lots, ice vending machines, self-service pet washes, ATMs, billboards, warehouses. Notice something? None of them are flashy. None promise overnight riches. None require becoming famous. Yet every one of them is built around the same principle. Solve a problem people will always have, and they'll keep paying for the solution. That's the difference between chasing trends and building lasting wealth. The internet changes. Technology changes. Social media changes. But human needs? They've remained surprisingly consistent for generations. So if there's one lesson to take away from this video, let it be this. Don't ask yourself, what's the most exciting business I can start? Ask yourself, what's the problem people will still be paying to solve 10 years from now? Because that's where real opportunities are often hiding. Not in the spotlight, but in the ordinary businesses everyone else ignores. If one of these businesses changed the way you think about making money, let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy practical finance stories that reveal how wealth is really built, subscribe and join us for the next one. Until then, keep learning, keep thinking differently, and remember, sometimes the most boring business can be the smartest investment.